times of dirty underpants and no Major League Baseball, welcome back to I'm Your Aid Astrology, because, well, there's nothing else to watch. In all seriousness, when I am in this much isolation, I get a little more slappy and quirky than usual. But this week I wanted to get my message out a little earlier. Normally I present my videos on Monday, but there's so much going on in the planets, which is seriously affecting the state of the world. I wanted to get this message to you before Sunday, because I feel like there is some big things a-brewing in the astro world. So kind of stepping off of my last video, where I talked a little bit about Mars meeting Jupiter. On the 22nd, we are having a party in Capricorn. And if you noticed here in the charts, we have Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, and Saturn forming a stellium with 3 or more planets combined or fused together is considered a stellium or a superplanet. And this is not only kind of a major activation. I know we've had Saturn and Pluto dancing together for quite some time. But with Jupiter entering the party and Mars is considered the great activator, there's going to be some major shifts in our lives and in the world at large. So to give you some context of what this energy feels like, Mars conjunct Jupiter, we'll just talk about how that feels in the natal charts. That's kind of like the great crusader. It's impulsive, reactive. It could be violent. It could be fighting in the name of something, fighting for the name of God, in the name of my country, in the name of a higher cause. And then when that energy moves to Pluto, it's probably the most dangerous and explosive place for Mars. When we're dealing with Pluto, in the combination of Mars, we're talking about rage, anger, manipulation, control, dangerous situations. Mars and Pluto takes things by force. That's why when you see it in the birth chart, especially in the 8th house, it could mean rape in a lot of ways. Not saying that this is the case here, but that is the severity of the aggression of Mars and Pluto kind of working together. Now, since we're talking about Jupiter, Jupiter, as we know, expands things. But there's a level of restriction because Jupiter doesn't work so well in Capricorn as opposed to being at home in Sagittarius, which we've had the entire last year. So it expands, but it reaches a level. It reaches like a dome point. But when it's like blowing into a balloon, and the balloon gets to a point of popping, there is restriction in the balloon. You could tell that it's reaching its max capacity. So when we're talking about these things manifesting, we're in the house of Capricorn. So, how is this energy going to show up in our lives? It's going to show up with authority, government, the world at large. Capricorn rules metropolises, cities, as the opposite of Cancer rules rural areas, country. So to me, take this with a grain of salt. The combination of these planets is it's very martial. It's very authoritative. And it's in response to that, there's going to be a lot of reactions. Again, with Mars conjunct Jupiter, that's kind of really impulsive. We just had the moon kind of hitting all those planets like a bowling ball. And the moon, obviously, with those planets, is in Capricorn. So the moon in Capricorn is really cold. It's rigid. It's motionless. If you have those aspects in your natal chart, it's lack of love or emotional support, from the moon, the mother, and basically that just hit those planets, and you can see some really non-attached decisions that are happening in the world at large, and it's basically the moon going to hit those pins, and Mars is going to come in and pick up the spare. I'm not a doom and gloom person. I am someone that believes in high awareness, because with knowledge comes power. And there's a lot of things we could do, and there are some positive things coming, and I'll explain that a little bit towards the end of the video. We have to remember that as sucky as this is, and a violation of free will, we'll call it, on a deeper soul level, we agreed to this before we were born. This is something that is maybe past life related, with a lot of this activity coming from the South Node, and possibly we could come and do this better than we did in a previous incarnation. I would say, prepare as best you can, get supplies in your home within your means. If you live in your family, I would bunker up, because I feel like what this combination is very restrictive. It's forceful actions by authority, government. I feel maybe not everywhere, but in major cities, there will be they'll probably use a different term for it, but as close to martial law as we could think. So almost all stores and businesses will probably be closed down or restricted to just drive through, maybe not even drive through. You may see in certain cities troops in the streets. We know that the National Guard has been called in due to the pandemic. There could be a curfew, maybe permits and passes and limitations of times you could drive. So there's a lot of theories of why this is happening, and I'm going to leave that for other forums and leave this just to astrology. But bunker up. This is the whether you want to accept it or not, the time is coming. And we're going to talk about today is kind of some of the positive we could take out of this, and what can we use this time for, because this is an opportunity. In every situation in life, there's an opportunity. Also, with the Mars meeting up with Jupiter and Pluto, that typically means infidelity, and it's hidden, Pluto. So, those of you that are in unhealthy relationships, you feel like the world is going to end, and you're like, screw it, I'm just going to go out and jump on the right foot and do the wrong thing. Be cautious with those actions, because again, we have Mars being very impulsive. Yes, if you are not playing nice in that regard, that is your free will. Understand, though, there's always spiritual consequences to that. And in times like this, it's not to react out of impulse or out of desire. Have more grace and humility and love and compassion to your fellow man, humanity, And just because the things that are going on in the world are kind of shitty, it doesn't give you justification or an excuse to do something that is off color or not honorable. So another part of this we're seeing with Jupiter and Pluto, it's enormous power. And this is, we're seeing a big power play from the world and the government. It's also is considered hidden wealth. And hidden wealth is like inheritance, offshore accounts, large transfers of money. In a lot of ways, maybe even Bitcoin would be considered hidden wealth. We're seeing the massive swing of the global powers right before our eyes. Remember that the combination of Uranus and Taurus, Saturn and Pluto, you're going back into history, you're talking about major cataclysms, the Great Depression, the rise of Hitler. So, and those are going to show itself in different ways, but these are the type of energies we're dealing with. This is no joke, no walk in the park, and there's no fluff behind this message today. This is some serious shit. So let's talk about some of the positives. So Jupiter and Pluto are meeting up 3 times this year. They're meeting up now, and there's going to be an exact conjunction or fusion on April 4th. There's a wide couple degree separation right now, so we're feeling it, but we haven't felt its massive effect. We're also feeling this energy in June and November. So, let's talk about the 2 planets by themselves. Jupiter is prosperity, positive mindset. It's godly, God consciousness. It's philosophical. It's a, glass is half full type of mentality. Jupiter is related to Sagittarius, so it's, philosophy, it's higher education, higher realms. Pluto, death, sex, taxes, other people's money, inheritance, power, control. It's the underworld. Pluto is death and transformation. So to me, what I'm seeing is that these systems of power are unraveling. They need to be destroyed and uncreated for new systems to be created and fulfilled. Saturn is moving into Aquarius. Saturn creates structures that work. It's innovative. It's new solutions. It's outside the box thinking, although it's kind of restricted sometimes in Saturn. It doesn't mean it doesn't function at all, because these 2 can coexist. So to me, with these planets hooking up these next couple of months and the rest of the year, now June and November, I feel like we'll, as a human being, as a soul, we are able to access both the higher realms and the lower realms for transformation to occur. I would say that, there's duality to it. I would say it'd be a good opportunity to see things more like in a Mercury way. Mercury is neutral. A great example of Mercury is when my parents divorced when I was young. We needed to have supervised visits with my father, and it was always kind of awkward and weird, but it was normally a gentleman, and he would just sit there in the corner minding his own business, reading a book, taking notes, but he was observant. And Mercury doesn't play sides. He will sit down with the devil and take notes and give that message to God, have a conversation with God, and go down to the devil and read the notes from God. in a lot of ways, that's kind of what's happening. And I think when, Jupiter and Pluto, it's expansion of transformation on a personal level. A lot of parts of us need to die in order for us to reach our next step in our soul evolution. And and a lot of this is kind of working with the nodes. And when we talk about the South Node, it's kind of the past life constructs, karmic patterns and relationships that we're here to destroy and uncreate, and in order to reach our North Node. North Node is our destiny. When the nodes shift, we experience new destinies. And North Node is a destiny that we've never experienced in any of our lives before. So there is unconscious fear of the unknown, but only in the unknown is where you could actually manifest. South Node brings us some of our talents and skills that we had from past lives to use and harness in this one. So the nodes will be shifting soon. So we're going to be kind of having this push-pull effect. And anything that has been kind of presenting itself to you and you've been rejecting, there's going to be that friction. And really, it's, basically the events happening in the world is, you see like this government power that's trying to hold on to this old way of doing things, old way of being, systems and constructs that are outdated. They're holding on as tightly as they can. They're putting money in the system and giving money to the people. And these systems need to die because they just don't work anymore. And what in your life are you holding on to? What system constructs and beliefs are you holding on to that are not serving its purpose anymore, and it's actually holding you back? And maybe you created these things as a defense mechanism to survive, but you don't have to survive anymore. Even though we're in a survival state of being, you need to come to a place of thriving. I'll give you an example of this in my life. So like I mentioned before, I've spent the last 16 years in multifamily housing. I was a property manager for a number of years, and then last 5 or 6 years ago, I became in regional management, and then regional marketing, director of marketing, and I started my own marketing company in 2016, which I still run now. I went to as a caveat, while that's been going on, I've been studying astrology. I've learned from the great Robert Phoenix and Heather Eland, who was one of his best students. To me, both those individuals are two of the best astrologers in the world. And I've been studying with them, private tutoring, while I've been still in this industry. And my true passion is astrology. I want to help empower people, use and harness the energy of the stars to create the best lives for themselves and ultimately to heal. And obviously I am, an active astrologer, and I do readings. I really want it to be my main focus, and it's what it makes me come alive. It's astrology is typically the first thought of my morning and the last thought of at nighttime. The only thing I think about more than astrology is my fiance. So recently I went to this marketing expo for multifamily to go see some people, connections, network, grow my business, etc. And what was interesting about that is I did not come out of that 3-day conference with any new marketing business. However, I did get 5 astrology readings requests. And I was kind of baffled about it. And I talked to I was still working with Heather Eland, and we had a coaching session, and I told her about it, and she goes, "That doesn't surprise me at all. This is where the universe is trying to push you to." So what I'm saying is these 3 dates, these 3 months of when Jupiter and Pluto are hanging out, you're going to get drips from the universe, and pay close attention to what synchronicities you have. A lot of times spirit will talk to you in the form of other people. What are people presenting to you? What are they hinting to you? I have a good friend of mine that I look at her chart and help her out from time to time. And she's really had a really difficult time in the state she lives in. And, without disclosing too much, she's got Pluto on her descendants. And she wants to move closer to water. She's a Scorpio, makes sense. But the coastal line she is gravitating for just kind of amplifies more so Pluto on her descendant. And it's interesting, she's been getting offers of people to visit, offers to run her business in other parts of the world, where Venus would be in a conjunction on her midheaven. And it would move the energy of Pluto out of her 7th house, and she's had some really troubling times in relationships, business relationships, one-on-one relationships, friendships in general, intimate relationships. So this would not only relieve that for her, she also wants to really grow and expand her business and just love what she's doing. And those areas in which she's being pulled to, she's rejecting. She wants to go left when the universe is telling her to go right. And she's asking me, well, why is all this happening? I'm trying to sell my house and all this stuff's going on in the world. I'm like, well, I think the universe is asking you to go another direction. Uranus is wreaking havoc in her 4th house. It's very disruptive, but I also told her Uranus liberates you. Uranus will correct your course if you're offline. So what are you pushing against? So these are some examples of how this can manifest in your reality. Pay close attention. Spirit is strong right now, more so than in recent memory. And I'll give you some examples of that later. So also with this conversation, we have a new moon in Aries. What is that, the 24th? So thank God, because since the beginning of the year, I've used the analogy that we've been running in quicksand in our lives. And I think when this hits, it's going to be a time of acceleration. So let's just cover real quickly the timeline of the moon. We had a new moon in January in Aquarius. That was major shock and change. That was the first drip, the first earthquake to shake your ground and foundation. That was followed by the full moon, which was a culmination point, which was a igniting of a passion. So maybe you had something removed in your life, something coming to a climax, to die, to sprout into something new. And there was some interactions with Uranus. You probably got some information that really just got you psyched out of your mind and wanted to go to another direction, but you couldn't. You had to stop, you had to pause. Mercury was in retrograde. You couldn't take any action, which led then to the new moon in Pisces, which you had learned to surrender, let go and let God, give it up to fate and destiny. Start dreaming about what you wanted to unfold in your life. Use the laws of attraction to pull that through, but you couldn't take any action yet. You had to trust in the higher consciousness of Pisces. And then recently we had the full moon in Virgo a couple weeks ago, which was, tying up loose ends, getting really granular, healing, so you could remove the toxicity, so you can move forward into your next path. And now we have new moon in Aries. So Aries is action. Aries is the crusader. Aries is will. It's ego without consciousness. It's how you want to. What intentions do you want to lay down? Because we're starting a new cycle with Aries. It's the real new year, so to speak. So what intentions? What does your year want to look like? What's your intentions going forward? So everything that you were manifesting and dreaming about these last few months, you would finally put into action. And I know that seems outrageous right now because everything going on in the world. So here's the gift. We have pause. We have isolation. From a shamanic view, transformation sometimes has to come with isolation. This new moon is met with Chiron. It's squaring the nodes. It's a time of healing. The square with the North Node is maybe you don't really know what direction to take. You have a clean slate to do whatever you want. That is freedom. So yeah, maybe some people lost their jobs. It's terrible. Maybe those jobs are holding them back. Maybe this weird effed up situation, what's happening to all of us, is for all of us to just pump the brakes and see life through a different scope. Because the way we've been viewing life to now, everything is so fast, everything moving here, there, you can't manifest something new in that type of chaos. So we're being slapped across the face to just sit in isolation. It's uncomfortable. It's time to get into meditative state. I've been doing something that I recommend to everybody at night. I've been turning off my cell phones, and I've been taking mine and my fiance's cell phone, putting in our car, and turning off all TVs and devices, and actually unplugging our modem at night. There's some things I believe 5G related that you may want to consider. Here's the catch. We have been having the most lucid dreams, at least for me personally, that I can recall, gosh, probably since I was a child. It was like I was living in a different reality, and this is the dream. This is the dream. Regardless, there's messages for you on the other side. Take this time to, one of the best ways to overcome toxic thoughts is to fill your brain with something new. Learn something new. Start something new. I had someone reach out to me that wanted a reading because she's kind of at a climactic point and wants to start a new passion, start her channel. It's a great time to do that. Action, Aries. For me, I'm brushing up on my own astrology skills, bringing some new creativity to my messages. It's a great time to detox, especially with this pandemic. One of the biggest things you could do to fortify your body is support your immune system. I recommend daily doses of turmeric, CBD, the tincture under the tongue, colloidal silver, higher than normal doses of vitamin C. This is all the things I've been doing, because when you're in fear and you're in anxiety, you lower your immune system. So this is why the media is making this such a freaking fiasco. It's actually making people more sick and more susceptible to being sick. Drives me nuts. One way to detox is daily detox bath. So I would do a half a cup of baking soda and a half a cup of Himalayan Epsom salt. You can find that at Target. No one's grabbing salts right now. And I would draw your bath to a warm, a hotter temperature. Drink 20 ounces of water before, 20 ounces of water after, and don't stay in that bathtub longer than 20-25 minutes because that can get dangerous. Following this video, I will also do a short how-to video on how to create your own coffee enema. I know it's not for everyone. I have to do it once a week because I have 4 gut diseases. So it's a great way to detox your intestines and detox your liver in a very explosive way. Again, it's not for everybody, but it's very powerful, and it's an ideal cocktail for the times. And this is something I've learned from the Gerson diet. There's other ways to detox your body, but this really is, in my mind, the most effective. And it also gives you a little bit of drive because you're putting coffee into your system, so you're gonna be pretty jacked up for the rest of the day. I mentioned, a great way to combat toxic thoughts is learning something new. So I mentioned Robert Phoenix and Heather Eland. To me, I sought them out. I'm very granular and intense with my level of research. And to me, based on not only their integrity, the power of their message, and how ingenious they both are, to me, they're the 2 best astrologers in this world today. I have learned everything I know from them, and I'm honored to be associated in the same breath as those 2 individuals. So I will leave links to their astrology courses in my description and my comment section. I've taken Robert's 16-hour class. It's fantastic, really well done. Delivers it with granular detail like a Virgo, but communicates in a very Gemini way, which was a really easy way for me to receive. And Heather Eland is also a Virgo, and she's probably one of the most detailed, professional, genius astrologers out there. She has a course that she offers. She offers 2 different courses. I believe she just released a new one on Econic Network, and she has her own on her website. I'll leave those links there. So whether if you want to use astrology just to learn how to navigate your own chart, if you want to be an aspiring astrologer someday, or use this time to empower yourself, those are 2 great resources that I stand behind. So I will leave that information again in the comments section, description. So I know I gave you guys a lot to swallow today. Everything's gonna be okay. Venus is going to trine Pluto and Jupiter on the 28th. We'll get some emotional and financial support in some way, possibly even some new opportunities. So just hang tight, believe that something greater is working for you, know that there's messages for you on the other side, detox, and start taking action on your dreams, wishes, and desires. Again, I'm Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. I'm not your coach, I'm not your guru, I'm not your guide, I'm your aid, angel in disguise. I help you, empower you. Until next time, God bless.